Hi, I'm Chris James, and you're watching A Healthy Alternative. Today, we're going to be talking about how fasting is literally Viagra. Stay tuned.
We're missing a piece of the puzzle. You start getting healthy and you just become a better person. We need to start focusing more on the individual.
What's going on, AHA family? Your man Chris James is here, and today I've got an exciting announcement. We are launching our very first AHA Fasting Academy. Essentially what this is a platform outside of YouTube and Facebook where you can come learn the ABCs of fasting. We're talking about taking you from A to Z, everything you need to know from not knowing anything about fasting all the way up to being, like an expert faster. We're going to be talking about how to do it safely. We're going to be talking about some of the pitfalls of fasting, how to properly prepare for fasting, and everything is going to be in chronological order. That way, you don't have to go looking around on my YouTube, looking for this video, that video, asking a whole bunch of questions that I've answered in videos, but it's all in one place. It's quick, concise. It's a huge time saver, and it's very, very convenient. I've pretty much created this as an insiders club. This is a place where we can all come talk. We'll have forums. We'll have, messaging systems. It's pretty much going to be like a little mini Facebook inside the academy. And I'm going to be offering special discounts on services, products, and more. In addition to that, I'm also offering you guys monthly calls where you can literally come ask questions, get answers in real time, and then I will be archiving those calls for you to review later on. So if you missed the call 1 week or if you missed the call 1 month, whatever, you can always go back and review those calls later. This is going to be an amazing place to accelerate your journey. So whether you're a brand new faster, whether you're a fasting professional and maybe you just fell off, or whether you just need a little motivation to keep going and be consistent with your fasting journey, this is the place for you. I will be adding content on a regular basis. We're going to be talking about water as well as other topics that I find to be very, very valuable. This is going to be a very interactive system, so your input will be highly valued, and I'm really, really excited about launching this thing. I think that it's going to help take us to the next level, expand our reach, and help a ton more people. It's going to be like a group counseling session. We can all feed off each other's energy. Our goal right now is to reach 500 people, help them get from point A to point B. I know a lot of you all are out there and you've been with the group for a while, but you're struggling. And I put this in place to create a unique support system for those who have been struggling, especially if you're fasting and you're doing well, then you fall off, then you need motivation. I mean, this is going to be an amazing place to cultivate wellness, and it's something we can grow with. It's something that we can build on, and it's ours, right? We own it. It's AHA, so we won't be restricted in what we could do. Anyway, check it out, ahafastingacademy.com. That's AHA or AHA, fastingacademy.com. The link will be in the description box below. This is going to be an amazing resource, and I look forward to seeing you all on the inside. Okay, so I wanted to do this video today because it was mentioned in the group a couple of weeks ago. It's something I've talked about in the past. Me and John have had discussions about this. And also, I feel like I want to do something for the men, right? Not to say that women won't benefit from this, because women definitely will benefit from this. This is more commonly a problem that men express. And so I wanted to speak to the men today. And well, actually, it's going to help ladies too on the flip side, right? I mean, if it's helping the men, it's helping the ladies. So this is a win-win-win for all of us. Just to give you guys a little bit of background information, in case you haven't seen in my other videos, I personally have never had issues with impotency or anything of that nature. But what I have noticed is as I got older, my erections changed. So obviously this is a very personal talk, but we're all adults here. If the children are watching, maybe this isn't a good episode. Parental advisory is in effect for this particular video. Anyway, so as I got older, I noticed that, number one, I lost my morning erections. It happens to a lot of men. I really don't know too many men that it hasn't happened to. It's very common, and we don't really think too much of it. I think because it happens to all of us, we just don't. It's just not. I never thought twice about it. It happened when I was a child. Sometimes it would seem embarrassing, and then as I got older, it stopped happening, and I was okay with it. It was fine. Um, but I also noticed that the blood flowed down there slowly but surely. It wasn't as strong as it used to be, and it would just be on more rare occasions that I would get good blood flow down there. And so it did at certain times become concerning for me, because sometimes my performance was different. And I think for a lot of men, we kind of we make that a big deal, right? And it is a big deal. Outside of health and wellness, though, we do definitely make that a big deal. We want to be able to please our partners. And so this is before my wellness journey or anything like that. I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. I just noticed something. So I think a lot of us can probably attest to that. Now, in John's video, we talked about how John actually had a bigger dysfunction where sometimes it wasn't working. And so for John, it was a more prominent issue. Now, for y'all who don't know, John was a diabetic at the time. And so we think that played a big role in it. I mean, that's a big part of it. So, but I've never had diabetes or anything. So for me, it was probably more what most men experience, which was just issues with performance overall. Now, with all of that being said, I've heard the stories of many men who have issues getting it up. I mean, young guys who are taking steel libido. I've even tried it back in the day, which is like supposed to be like a more natural Viagra. I've also talked about guys in their 30s and 40s in the barbershop. Back in the day, I'd hear them in the barbershops talking about the different Viagras. Oh, I'm about to go on a trip with my lady, got my, Viagra, or I think there was another one started with a C, Cialis or something. Don't quote me. I don't know these drugs, but there was another one. And I would literally be like, man, like, I mean, they were older than me at the time. I was in my 20s, but these guys were probably in their late 30s or early 40s. I'm like, man, that's weird. You know what I mean? I thought Viagra was for 80-year-old men who clearly, they were past their prime, and, the equipment wasn't working down there because of old age, and that was normal. And so Viagra, but then I started realizing like, nah, like young guys are taking this. Now, in addition to the fact that obviously, Viagra is a drug and it's a toxic drug, then, of course, you've got the side effects. Sometimes the erections don't go away. I mean, there's all these other issues that come along with taking Viagra, especially if you're using it for over long periods of time. Not to mention the whole prepping. I mean, when it comes to intimacy and being spontaneous with your partner, you don't want to have to stop to pop a pill, wait for the pill to kick in, and then, you know what I mean? You want it to flow. So with keeping all of that in mind, there's one general statement that I want to make to all the men out there. If you're not getting morning erections, your health can be improved, okay? I'm not telling you that you're gonna get erectile dysfunction or anything. I'm not saying anything like that. But what I am saying is there is room for improvement that would greatly increase your performance overall and your confidence, okay? Because, I mean, let's be honest. Most of us have seen those pornos where the guy's like just constantly, you know what I mean, strong the whole time he's walking around. I'm like, man, that's not real life. Like, what are these dudes taking? Like, we all want to be that Superman with our partners. And at the end of the day, it seemed like in reality, that was never really the case, at least for me. So, if you aren't getting the morning erections, that's a good indicator that you've got room for improvement in that area. I just wanted to get that out of the way because some people might not think this information is valid for them. Now, with that being said, how can this improve, right? What's really happening? Well, obviously, when it comes to your erections, we're talking about blood flow, okay? And what's happening? Well, the toxic foods are gunking up our arteries, literally, they're gunking up, and it's restricting blood flow. Now, there's many different ways blood flow can be affected. It doesn't always have to be from eating a whole bunch of toxic foods. It could be from medications. It could be from treatments. It could be from a lot of different things. But the reality is that the arteries and the veins, they're being gunked up. Blood's not flowing properly. Also, this is another major point that I actually spoke about at our most recent event, which was a major hit. So if you guys are in the group, you maybe saw I posted about it. Major hit. Thank you, everyone who came out. I talked about how cellular dehydration is one of the, if not the root cause of all diseases. So here's what happens. When the cells aren't able to dump their waste, when they're not able to get water, right? When they're not able to hydrate, they swell up, they become inflamed. That's one of the body's responses, okay? Nothing in, nothing out. Here's what happens. The cells swell up, okay? So then it constricts the passageways, right? Blood doesn't flow as easily as it should because everything's inflamed and swollen. And so therefore, now you've got erectile issues, right? One of the reasons fasting helps to fix this problem. Number one, when we're talking about dry fasting is really, really key for reducing inflammation in the body, okay? So if you're dealing with heavy inflammation in general, dry fasting is a major, major key. The body, when you fast, the body has an opportunity to break down some of the gunk, sludge, and plaque that's in your arteries, your veins, that's gunking everything up. Okay, so all of that stuff gets broken down, flushed out of the system. The blood starts to flow better. Also, outside of dry fasting, if you're doing water fasting and you take the time to consume the proper type of water, okay, meaning that we typically consume what is called bulk water. Bulk water is literally where the water molecules are clustered together. And they're really large. And so the water can't actually seep into the cells. And in addition to that, the cells become inflamed when they become dehydrated. So it's even more difficult for the cells to absorb water. So you really want to be focusing on energizing your water, as I've mentioned in countless videos. Talked about sun energizing the water, taking your water through a process so that it is more hydrating, especially if we're dealing with cellular dehydration. Now, recently I talked to you guys about these water bottles, and one of the things that I was looking for was something that you could do in addition to sun energizing the water, because a lot of you all mentioned to me that you couldn't sun energize the water because you didn't get a lot of sun. Now, you can energize the water with daylight, right? You don't have to get direct sunlight, but direct sunlight is best. It's more efficient. But if you live in a place that's more cloudy and stuff like that, these gem water bottles are great for energizing your water and giving you a similar effect, okay? It's structuring the water. It's going to make the water more hydrating. It also smooths the water out and makes it easier to drink and swallow, which it's very interesting to really grasp that concept, because most of us think of water just being water. We don't think about the texture of water. And I know before I started down this journey, I certainly didn't think about the taste. I thought all water tasted alike. Obviously now I don't believe that at all. And I had to really look back at it myself and apologize to some of my ex-girlfriends for really making fun of them about, being water snobs. But anyway, with that kind of being said, it's really important that we're properly hydrating. You want to be eating your water, okay? Structured water is in all of the fruits, all the high water content fruits and vegetables. So if you're eating structured water, if you're structuring your water using the sun or one of these gem bottles, then you're optimizing your hydration, because even if you drink a gallon of water, and you guys know that I do recommend that you start with distilled water because it's pure. And then what you want to do is you want to put positive frequencies or energies back into the water, which will structure it. Talked about this before. That's not what this video is about, but then the water becomes alive and it's going to hydrate you much, much better. So in particular, my story with this particular water bottle is after maybe 3 days to a week of using it, I can't really remember exactly how long it was, but it was within a week. I noticed that my blood flow was better down there. Okay. This is not some type of infomercial or commercial. I'm literally just sharing my experience. I did talk to the CEO of the company I'm affiliated with. Yes, I am affiliated with the company that distributes these bottles, but he told me that he had never heard anything like that before. So this is, as of right now, something, it was a unique experience for me. But I think one of the reasons why I had this experience is because I didn't just simply start drinking the water. It's not just about doing one thing. It's not just about changing the type of water you drink, eating the proper foods. It's not just about fasting. You need to do all three, right? Like, we're talking about wellness from a holistic standpoint. So we're going to be drinking the right type of water, eating the right type of foods, incorporating fasting. Also, you need to detox. You need to get rid of the stuff that's in there that's messing you up. And you also need to change your mental. You need to make sure that you're thinking positive thoughts and you're in a good space, because the water that you drink is heavily affected by your thoughts. You want to be thinking positive thoughts, and you want to be in a positive atmosphere. I know this sounds, for those who aren't familiar with how it works and everything, I know it probably sounds a little weird or a little far out, but there is science that backs this up. There's plenty of science that backs this up, okay? I've mentioned this in other videos, but if you guys want to look up Dr. Emoto, I believe he's I want to say he's a Japanese. He's either Japanese or Chinese. I can't remember, and I'm sorry, but he's a professor. He actually passed away now, but Dr. Emoto did many, many studies on water. One other individual that I like to talk about is Professor Mo Anier. He is the one he has a documentary called Water Memory that I highly suggested you guys check out. And just simply between these two individuals, you can make the correlation. You can understand how energy affects the water and how important water is. As I've mentioned before, we're 70 to 90% water, which means that we need to learn about how different things affect water, because we're essentially water. So all of these topics are very relevant. But at the end of the day, what we're talking about is increasing blood flow through water fasting or just dry fasting. And I know I had a question about dry fasting. Well, how is it that you're saying water is so important, but then you promote dry fasting, which is not drinking or eating? And I've explained this before. I have a dry fasting video, but basically with dry fasting, in a nutshell, your body will start to manufacture its own water. You don't have to always take water by mouth. Now, with that being said, there's limitations to it. This is something that you really need to understand before you partake in it. It's not something that you just want to jump into, because there are dangers associated with it. As I mentioned earlier, we have a fasting academy available now where we will actually be walking you through the steps to do these things safely. But with that being said, your body will actually manufacture the water. Remember that you have hydrogen in the fat cells. You breathe in oxygen. Hydrogen and oxygen makes water, right? Your body also has the ability to absorb water through the skin. In a typical American shower, you absorb, I think it was like 2 cups of water. Okay. I've heard that stat a while ago, so I might be a little bit off, but the number was high. It was high. It was a lot. I mean, I was like, wow, 2 cups of water. That's a lot of water. So not only can your body utilize internal systems to generate water, it can also absorb water through the skin. And keep in mind that, our atmosphere has water. There's water present everywhere. So your body can get water. And the important thing about it, and this is the distinction that you want to make, is the water that your body manufactures is structured water. It can actually be utilized. The water that you drink may or may not actually be able to be utilized by the body. One good way to understand this concept is if you drink, let's say you drank a gallon of water within a 2-hour period of time, right? We all know you'd be going to the bathroom a lot. You'd be peeing out a lot of water. Now, we understand that the bladder is kind of like, it's like a release valve, right? So when we consume too much of something, we can release it through the bladder like that. But we shouldn't be peeing as much as we pee. I mean, if we're absorbing that water, right, then we should be retaining most of it and just peeing out a little bit of it. And it's interesting that I actually spoke to one of my brothers who was here visiting for the event, and we talked about how when you structure the water, you absorb it. And he was just because this is all brand new to him. He was comparing, he had drank we sat down for maybe about 4 hours or so, and he drank 2 tall glasses of water. We're talking 16 to 18, maybe even 20 ounces of water. I think he had 2 or 3 glasses total. And within that 4-hour period of time, he didn't pee at all, right? Now, we had structured the water prior to giving it to him. And he noticed that he didn't have to pee until later on that night. It was the same thing for me. I was sitting there drinking my water, and I didn't have to pee until later on that night. So these are things that you'll notice when you start making these changes. They're subtle, but they're very important. Also, keep in mind that it might take your body some time to adjust to some of the things you're doing. You may not see instantaneous changes. You may have to give it a little bit of time, but you'll notice it. And so it's important to keep in mind. I know we talk about Viagra in this video, but this is kind of how it works. And I wanted you guys to have a good understanding of, how all these pieces fit together. So with all that being said, getting healthy has its advantages, not just aesthetically, but also in the bedroom. Okay. So you can look forward to, performing better for your partner. And also, like I mentioned earlier, this goes for women as well. I mean, women, it's not as pronounced, but women do have issues as it relates to their relations as well. So, and I'm not going to speak on that. I prefer a woman to speak on that. But, if you're having issues with lubrication down there or, other things, this is also, something that will be very beneficial for you in addition to the men. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, like this video, hit the notification bell so you can be notified when I release videos. Every once in a while, I'll throw a video out there outside of my schedule, but typically I do release videos on Sundays, 10:30 a.m. And as always, the application of knowledge is power, and I will see you all next time.